everybody, welcome back to the 3ppodcast. I'm your host, Darnelle Turner, and as always, we're back on another Monday with some positivity, some motivation to get you started. Man, so can you believe it's been 18 weeks, man? 18 weeks I've been coming to you. Thank you for everyone who's still listening. Thank you for my new listeners, and obviously, if you're here, you're dedicated to trying to get one step better, and man, I'm dedicated to that as well, so that's why I keep coming. This podcast is literally for everyone who's just trying to get 1% better. I'm not your guru. I'm not someone who's going to tell you what to do. I'm just trying to get better as well. So look at me as more as your classmate, someone who could, as I'm learning, I'm just passing you the notes so you can apply it to your life as well. So let's get this podcast started. Have you ever been in a situation where you're talking to a friend, a family member, your spouse, anyone, and you're just like, man, they're going through a problem, and you're able to coach them through it. You're able to give them good advice. You're able to give them like good quality advice, man. And you think to yourself like, man, like what if I would give that same advice to myself when I'm going through hard times? So that recently happened to me. I was talking to my wife, and it happens to me a lot, honestly. But in this particular situation, I was talking to my wife, and I was like giving her advice, and it was kind of like the same advice that I usually would need for myself, because me and my wife are both entrepreneurs. We're both in the fitness space. We're both of our businesses are wrapped around self-improvement in business. So there was a lot of parallels between me and her business and the actual advice that I was giving her. And I thought to myself, like, man, why is it so hard to give myself some of this advice? So that just had me thinking about self-talk. Sometimes I'm like a drill sergeant with myself. The littlest mistake that I make, it's like I'm on it. Like I'm literally my worst critic ever. So this got me thinking, for the last, I want to say, 20 years of my life, man, I've been very, very hard on myself. I haven't given myself enough grace. I haven't given myself enough self-advice to really get through some of these things. So I thought it was time to change that. And hopefully anyone out there with the same problem as well, that, you know, when things go wrong, you just kind of turn on yourself. As you know, sometimes we can be our own worst critics, and sometimes it can go bad because you're living in your head. You're the only one that's giving you this advice, so you're really just honing in on it. And sometimes the problem isn't really that big, but because you're so critical of yourself, it turns into a problem that could have been solved. It turns a problem that could have been solved into your introduction into depression, or your introduction into anxiety, or your introduction into just not feeling self-worth. Sometimes you can get something called imposter syndrome, and that's showing up in a room and not feeling like you're capable, or feeling like that you're not deserving of the situation you're in. That can happen a lot. I think my first time doing that actual I think it was the 10K, and I was looking at everybody, and a lot of people who do endurance sports, you know, they're very fit. You do have some outliers like myself, I guess, and some some people who are just daily runners. But for the most part, a lot of endurance sports runners, they're very, very thin, not a lot of muscle tone on them. I was like, look at all of these people, man. They're fit, they're in shape, their nutrition is probably really, really good. And at that moment, I had imposter syndrome. But once I started running, and I started realizing that, you know, it was really just me versus me, and running, and I decided to run my own race. That's when everything kind of fell in place for me, because my finish was better than most of the people who looked fit at the starting line. And that's not to say that, you know, you want to compare yourself to other people, but at that moment, I realized it's not necessarily it's not necessarily you versus them, it's you versus you, because you're the only one that can really carry yourself over to the finish line. Nobody else. There's that person who looks very fit may not have the endurance that you have because they haven't trained. They might not have time to train. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But there's a lot of different variables into showing up and showing up for yourself. So having that positive talk will definitely get you to at least be able to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. Because if you don't have that in the beginning, you're going to take yourself out of anything that you're trying to do, because you're literally talking yourself out of it. It's funny because when going back to, like I said, about giving advice, I remember when I was younger, I remember my friends used to say, man, like, you're like Dr. Phil or something like that. Because I used to actually listen. Like, some of my friends would be going through it, like a breakup or something with their girl, and I would just, I use empathy a lot. I use my best ability to understand what that person's going through, to use empathy. And also, I think I retain information a lot. So I think it helps me out in the long run, because I'm able to show people that I'm willing to listen. But the problem is, sometimes I'm not able to listen to myself. Sometimes you're just going through the motions. Sometimes sometimes we're going through stuff, and we're like, man, the universe is picking on me. Why is everything negative happening to me? Because it can seem like that, but the reality is, the world is just happening. The world is happening. Like, we're dealing with life. There's never not going to be a problem to solve. So instead of looking at those problems as like the world picking on you, I think it's just time to have a positive dialogue with yourself about what's going on, and also just a positive dialogue. Will go a long way, because when those problems do pop up, you'll be able to have those tools to talk to yourself in a positive way, and to allow yourself to get through it without scrutinizing yourself so hard that you're not even willing to go through that thing that you're going through. Sometimes I feel like, honestly, sometimes I feel like I could be Jekyll and Hyde to myself when I'm going through these things. Sometimes I handle these things very normal. Sometimes a problem will pop up and I'll go right through it. But then sometimes it's like the other side is just like, you're not good enough. You're not strong enough. Everybody's right. You're wrong. And that brings in a negative dialogue. That's something that I really, really would love to fix, and definitely taking the steps to fix it. So, like, just for example, some of the some examples of negative talk would be like, I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. They were right. What am I doing here? Am I even, am I worthy of this opportunity? I'm not smart enough. One of the big ones is just, I'm never going to make it, or I'm never going to succeed. That's really one, because it's like, we can't predict the future. So those are really bad ones, I think. Those are the worst ones in my opinion, because you're predicting the future with right now and present. So yeah, you may be going through a hard time, but what makes you think that this is going to last forever? Because nothing really lasts, whether it's a good feeling or a bad feeling. It doesn't last forever. It's all fleeting. So you're actually predicting that you're going to be in this position that you're in for 5 or 10 years, which is not realistic unless you are dedicated to that problem. If you're dedicated to making that problem stay in your life for a long time, then it will happen. So that's why self-talk is so important, to talk positively to yourself when things go wrong, because you don't want to create a situation where you're constantly thinking that you're going to just be in a negative place forever. Give yourself grace. I thought about this one time. I was going through a really, really hard time, and I was like, I had to stop and think, like, who created this perfection that we're aiming towards? Honestly, who said that we had to be perfect? The goal should be to work on being better, not to be perfect. Because if you're perfect, that means that you know everything. And we all know, if you know everything, I'm pretty sure that, maybe you're just a genius. But I think even the smartest people on this earth don't know everything. I mean, to be honest with you, who said that we had to be perfect? I remember going through a hard time, and I just remember sitting there and thinking, like, man, like, who created this level of perfection? Because I don't really understand where it comes from, because our goal should be just to get better, 1% better every day, 2% better every day. If you got a chance to get 5% better every day, that's amazing as well. So these are my 3 best ways to create a healthy dialogue with yourself and have that level of positive talk with yourself, because we're all going to go through it, man. Life is coming. I always say it all the time. Life is coming. Life is going to bring you these problems. So these are my 3 best ways to combat negative self-talk. One that you can use, and one thing that I use, is getting 1% better every day. You can learn one thing today that will set you up for the rest of your life. So what you're doing today actually matters. So you can read one word in one book that literally changes your life forever. You can get a new job. You can, you can start a business. You can help someone else start a business. You can start eating healthy. But it all starts at that one day. So if you're getting 1% better, that means making that step to actually do it. So you want to build that foundation on what you're actually trying to accomplish. So if your goal is to talk better to yourself and create a healthy dialogue, find out when you're feeling these negative feelings, or what triggers you to have these negative self-talk moments, and create a phrase around them. Like I said, all right, that's okay, but we're going to get 1% better every day. Rome wasn't built in a week. I know that's cliche, but when you really think about it, I mean, you have a massive structure that was not built in one day, and it's one of the biggest historical relics that we have, or even the pyramids. The pyramids wasn't built in one day. That should be a better one, because the pyramids, I love that. But the pyramids wasn't built in one day either. Honestly, we don't even know when they was built or how they was built. But my point is, these things take time. So expect for this goal of self-talk to take some time. But it has to start somewhere. So you have to create that phrase and create that positive feeling around this negative time. So it gives you those tools to be able to start this journey of positive self-talk. Write the pros and cons. So one thing that helps me as well is writing down the pros and cons. So instead of sitting down and pouting and moping and having a pity party about what I'm going through, I like to sit down and write a pros and cons list. So the pros, what can I learn from this? That's the biggest one. Even though this situation is negative, what can I learn from this situation? And the cons, what's bad about the situation? To actually writing everything down, and this allows you to really, really see the pros and cons of what's going on in your life. Sometimes you may find that the pros outweigh the cons, and this allows you to go through with the situation. So that's number 2, pros and cons. Writing down your pros and cons and actually writing it out to see if you even have a problem or not. This problem might actually end up working out well for you. Example of positive self-talk, and this is one of my favorite ones, but I think it was Michael Jordan who said, "I never lost a game, I just ran out of time." And that is a positive thought, because you're pretty much saying that, man, if I had enough time to figure it out, I would. And Michael Jordan never stopped playing basketball. I mean, he did, but he retired, but he always gave it his all, even when there was problems, even when he had games where he lost. Unfortunately, Michael Jordan lost games, and people don't. I think when people look at his greatness, they don't understand that. But the games that he won, is more memorable. But that started off with having that positive mindset of, I will win. So you got to create that positive mindset to actually get to winning those games. Because when he lost, he didn't say, all right, I'm done forever. He went back in the gym and started working again with that positive mindset. So, and last but not least, this is my favorite one. This is number 3, the 21-90 rule. So the 21-90 rule says it takes 21 days to build a habit and 90 days to build a lifestyle. This is one of my favorite ones. One, because I think any major change that I've made in my life, I did it for 90 days straight. So I remember when I wanted to stop drinking for a while. I remember I really had a really bad spout with drinking beer. And I remember I said, you know, for the next 90 days, I'm just going to drink no alcohol at all. And the first time I tried it, it failed. The second time I tried it, I said, no alcohol for 90 days, but I'll drink non-alcoholic beer because I think I just love the taste of beer. Odd, right? But I was one of them weird guys that just loved beer. I loved IPAs. I loved everything. I loved the hops. The more hops, the better. So one thing that helped me is 90 days. And like I said, I failed a couple times, but I bounced back and I finally made it to 90 days. And now it's a lifestyle. I barely drink beer anymore. I haven't had beer in 3 years. And I'm not saying that to be on my high horse because I loved beer. Like, I really love beer. Like, I had a beer making kit in the house and everything. But I realized that it was a negative habit for me and it had to change. So I changed it. So 21 days to build a habit. So start off with 21. You can always start off with 21. If you got something that you just want to do, that you want to create a habit around, 21 days. Every day you do it. It can be small. It can, like in this case, we're talking about talking to yourself positively. So just say something nice about yourself. It don't have to be nothing wild. Just say, wake up in the morning, look in the mirror. I love you. Say you. How many times have you actually looked at yourself and said, I love you to yourself? Just saying that. Just saying you got this, or have a good day. We got this. You're gonna make it. Anything positive, anything that you would say to anybody else. If you ever given advice to anybody else, or which all of us have, just give yourself some of that advice as well. Give yourself some of that positivity. We're people too. When somebody tells you to keep going and somebody gives you great advice or somebody gives you great motivation, you smile, man. It's happy. You love it. But give yourself it too. I mean, there's no rule book that says that we can't talk to ourselves positively. I mean, it's not going to make you look wild just because you want yourself to succeed as well. Because if you want everybody else to succeed, why not want yourself to succeed? At the end of the day, it's you versus you. But it don't have to be a competition with yourself. It could be you positively giving yourself advice too. So you don't have to be your opponent all the time as well. You can also be someone who lifts yourself up. So like I said, like, share, subscribe, man. If you like this podcast, if it helps you out, and if you think that it's going to help somebody else out, please share. Leave some comments, share to your friends, and stay tuned for some more videos. Stay tuned for more interviews coming up, and I hope you enjoy. See you next time. Peace.